This class is concerned with break-even analysis. Now, this topic is normally considered under the heading of finance. However, it does crop up elsewhere in business considerations. For example, in business planning, it might be desirable to know at what point does the business break even, or could some projected values be put to costs and revenue to see at what point it is likely that the business will break even in the future. So it's an important topic. Let's see how it works. Break-even analysis, it's a technique for identifying the point at which total revenue is just sufficient to cover total costs. In other words, it's the output level at which total revenue and total costs are equal. The output level where both balance. That's break even. And it's calculated using a very simple formula, and we'll see how it works in a second. But for the moment we've got the break-even level of output, BE. I'll just put the cursor onto the screen here. BE, break-even level of output, is equal to the total fixed cost divided by the price less the variable cost, VC. So the break-even level of output is equal to the total fixed cost divided by price minus the variable cost. Let's take an example. Here we have a local photocopying business, and it charges, put the cursor back on the screen, it charges 10p per photocopy. So each photocopy costs 10p. Now, let's say the cost of the photocopy machine and the premises, the fixtures and fittings and so on for the business, let's say they amount to £27,000 a year. Now the variable cost of a photocopy, well, each photocopy will cost something. It'll cost the paper it's printed on for a start, it'll cost the ink, the power that's used, the electricity that's used to power the machine, and it may include labour, somebody to do the photocopying. Now these are variable costs because those will vary the more output there is. So a large amount of photocopying will cost more than a small amount. It'll use more paper, more ink, more power, and the person will have to be paid more perhaps to do the work. Depends. But let's say the variable cost in this case is just 4p. So it's 4p a copy. Now if we go down to our formula, the one that we had up here, if we have this formula, we have the fixed cost, £27,000 a year, divided by the price, or the selling price of a photocopy, which is 10p, less the variable cost. And you can see we're making a profit on each one here. Each one produced is making a profit of 6p. 10p less 4p. So 6p profit here. So the more that's produced, it'll eat into the fixed cost. Now, how many exactly must be produced is this one, 27,000, the fixed cost, 27,000 divided by the 6p, 10p, the price minus the variable cost, which gives us 450,000. In other words, this business must photocopy 450,000 sheets of paper. If it does, it breaks even. It doesn't make a profit, it doesn't make a loss, it breaks even. And the revenue, as a matter of interest, here will be £45,000. It's 450,000 sheets times 10p, which is £45,000. So that's the the total revenue, which will also be the total cost. And that's how it's calculated. So that's how break-even is worked out. We can represent this diagrammatically as well, just to see how it works or what it looks like as a diagram. Let's say we've got costs and output. So on the vertical axis we've got costs. Now if we draw in the fixed costs, say our £27,000, well, it doesn't vary as the level of output. So it doesn't matter if you sell one photocopy or whatever, 450,000, it's still the same, it's still fixed cost. So it's a constant. It's parallel to the horizontal axis. The variable cost, it rises as output rises. So the variable cost increases as the output increases. The total cost, which is just the variable cost plus the fixed cost. So if you add fixed and variable, you'll get total. So here is the fixed cost, and at this point there's no variable cost, so it starts here, and then afterwards it rises along here. So it's, if you like, the variable cost sits on top of the fixed cost. It just moves up here. The revenue, well, that's the price that's charged. Now you can see that the revenue and the total cost cut at this point. So at that point they cut. And that is the break-even point. At that point, revenue, total revenue, is equal to total cost. If we go along to output level 1 over here, then we would have a profit. The revenue would exceed costs. Anything less, costs will exceed revenue. So this is the break-even, and the more output we produce, the more profit we get. And that's the basis for break-even analysis. It's a very straightforward little exercise, very important in finance, but it's also a very important consideration in looking at planning. At what point will a project break even? At what point will an investment break even? So it's a very important concept, and it's important to be clearly understood. However, that's all we're going to do in this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.